Chapter 2.
My small cottage grove bedroom felt like the whole world had been flipped inside out. Yesterday on Pi Day, when the war officially ended, everyone could tell you exactly what they were doing or what they were wearing. But today, the world was consumed with TQ test anxiety. Your TQ, or thinking quotient, was a 2-digit number that would decide whether you'd rule from the Mensa Senate or collect trash for a living. The part that really bugged me? Melinda's sudden death from natural causes and the complete lack of curiosity about it. Maybe years of war and famine had fried everyone's brain, or maybe we were just that easily distracted. The promised generation started with death. How's that for an opening move? The new city-states were left to figure it out. And so, the first week of the 3 promises began.
Maxim! Breakfast!
Charles's voice bounced up the stairs, but I stayed frozen at the mirror. My reflection stared back like a stranger, all sharp angles and hollow cheeks. The rugby shirt hung on my thin frame like a scarecrow's costume. I paused and stared into my own eyes and said,
"The world doesn't have to make sense. Everything doesn't have to add up. And that is still okay."
I knew that normal people don't have to repeat these stupid phrases to themselves. I'm weird that way. Disassembling a coffee maker and reassembling it, looking up all the components to understand each one's function, and then having the coffee maker work after reassembly, that felt earned. I guess if I was a normal teenager I would be spending 12 hours a day gaming in the Sphere, but I am not normal. Maybe that's why the Sphere never took with me, because there was no strategy. It was shoot them up and walk away, which is the perfect analogy for people in the 2030s. They've convinced themselves that living in a fantasy world is better than dealing with reality, and maybe they're right. Reality sucks. But at least my way is honest about sucking. My mom figured this out about me early. She had this gift for channeling my weird obsessive curiosity into something useful. While other moms were buying their kids participation trophies, mine was pushing me to figure things out for myself, either through difficult books or by saying, "Let's guess and work together to find the truth." She was weird like me. To her, my curious brain was a monster that needed to be fed, not a problem to be managed or medicated. My biological dad? Total deadbeat. Took off for cigarettes when I was 1 and apparently got lost on the way to the store. His loss became Charles's gain when Mom married him and we moved to suburbia USA. Our house, same as all others, was converted to run on hydrogen fuel. I guess everyone liked eliminating their electric bill by generating their own power without pollution. Life was actually decent back then. My mom loved me and loved Charles. She planted this huge garden, and at age 8, I will never forget my first strawberry, right off the vine. That explosion of sweet juice and creamy texture followed by the crunch of the tiny seeds. There was something so satisfying about her repetitive gardening process, planting all crops every year, mixing and experimenting, sowing and tending the young plants, and finally the harvest and analysis. Even at 8, I was like a duck in water analyzing both success and failure. Maybe it's because there are so many books on the subject. Other than religion, gardening is the second most written about subject in human history. By age 10, I can't even remember how many times I got in trouble for disassembling perfectly functioning electronics, but to me it was just a game just to see if I could put them back together. The pride I felt when that machine actually worked? That was real accomplishment, not like the Sphere where success was given, not earned. One of my best feelings was at age 12 when I programmed my first simple game, Block Breaker, but an even better highlight was at age 14, competing and winning my first online chess tournament. I think I enjoyed playing the man just as much as playing the game. It sounds weird, but in chess, every opponent has their own style, driven by their internal logic. That logic is both a blessing and a curse, because if you know the man, you know their weakness. It always felt earned to study my opponents. You could really learn a lot about someone from their first 6 moves. I remember thousands of games and have studied millions of opening moves. If life was chess, the world wouldn't suck. But in the early 2030s, the pox virus hit when I was 13, and this pushed everything for kids onto video conferences or online. Most kids just gave up on reality and dove into the Sphere full time. But for me, celebrating leveling up, or earning imaginary points wasn't a real challenge. Like I said, I am just an odd duck. After the pox virus came the robotic wars, and that's when the suck went full suck mode. My mom got caught in the crossfire between two M-bots during the first month. Worst day of my life. Charles picked up my mom's body in a wheelbarrow, and together we had to dig her grave in the backyard. At the start of the robotic wars, there were so many human deaths that the world couldn't find space for all the bodies. I will never forget her face the day we buried her next to the garden. She was completely white as the blood had drained from her body, but her face had a look of peace. This memory still haunts me like it was yesterday, and every time my brain goes to that space, instead of my mom's peace, it only creates the opposite effect for me. Anger. Life just got suckier and suckier after that. Food deliveries that were never enough, the war that caused people to hide all the time, and video school that was a joke. If the teacher, who got no pay, showed up, the students would either disengage completely or act out without any repercussions. Charles said I withdrew completely, went into a deep depression pit. He said if it wasn't for chess, he might have lost me forever. Here's the thing about the 2030s, it's exactly like the 1930s Great Depression. Profound sense of economic despair and lack of governmental support. The robber barons, now called the 1%, are doing just fine while everyone else suffers. The only thing that's changed is the preferred method of escape. My ancestors sought out speakeasies to abuse their bodies. We now use the sphere to abuse reality itself. Charles and my mom kept me away from the sphere, and I was fine with that. Social interaction was best left to influencers who acted in videos or movies, or scripted reality TV that was written to generate the most drama possible. Let's face it, the sphere rewards mediocrity. You get experience points for showing up, not for thinking. You level up through repetitive tasks designed to waste time, not challenge minds. Virtual death is followed by respawn. Failure gives you participation trophies. Success gets handed out like candy. It's the perfect system for a generation raised on the lie that everyone's special regardless of what they actually accomplish. But here's what I learned. You can't bullshit your way to checkmate. Reality doesn't grade on a curve. The coffee maker either works or it doesn't. The plants grow where you learn. Chess teaches you that thinking clearly beats thinking positively every time. I'm weird, and my life sucks, and that's just the truth. The difference is, I earned my way to that conclusion honestly.
Maxim. Breakfast.
Charles's voice called again, more insistent this time. I looked back at myself in the mirror and repeated my mantra.
I can't change the past. I choose not to dwell on the past, but instead live in the present, forgive myself and my people, then move forward.
It's not a perfect mantra, and it doesn't always work, but it's better than the alternative. It's better than spending all day angry about things I can't control, or bitter about the hand I've been dealt, or paralyzed by the sheer overwhelming suckiness of everything. With that, I dragged myself away from the mirror, my mind still churning through the implications of everything that had changed and everything that hadn't. I trampled downstairs. Charles, my stepfather, sat at the kitchen table, vibrating like a tuning fork. He was all smiles and nervous energy. He was in his mid-40s and in his old button-down shirt. His head was too large for his body, like someone who lost a lot of weight. Everyone in the 2030s had that same lean build from rationing food. He had thinning brown hair going gray at the temples and his brown eyes had wrinkles at the corners. Today his excitement and anticipation of the new and unknown made my skin crawl.
What a great day. Can you believe how far we've come in one day?
The words tasted like poison on my tongue.
Yeah. A great day for slavery.
The silence hit like a hammer. Charles's smile died. His face went dark, lines deepening around his eyes. When he leaned forward, his voice dropped into something dangerous.
Maxim, you can never say that out loud again.
But the chessboard had been flipped, and the rules had been changed.
Slavery.
Then louder.
Slavery.
The word bounced off the walls like a gunshot. Charles shot up so fast his chair screeched across the floor. For one terrifying second, I saw the rage in his face. Raw and unfiltered. His hand twitched like it wanted to hit something. like he wanted to hit me. Then the doorbell rang. A mechanical voice, sharp and metallic, came through the doorbell camera.
This is your Optum robot, reporting for domestic service.
Charles went pale. The anger drained out of him like water through a broken dam. He leaned close, his whisper barely audible.
Maxim, the system doesn't care that your mind works differently. You need to have impulse control. You need to count to 5 before you respond.
My chest tightened. He knew. He knew this was all wrong. So why was he playing along? Charles straightened, plastered on a fake smile, and opened the door. Standing at the door was a terrifying 7-foot M-Bot. A humanoid machine, built in Milwaukee, 2028. It was powered by a hydrogen engine humming softly on its back. Gray metal plating. Hydraulic joints. Electric motors in the fingers. The thing had no neck. A steel cage surrounded its camera eye, which sat behind scratched bulletproof glass. The machine looked like it had survived hell. I hated these machines, but what caught my eye weren't the electronics. It was the bullet holes. 3 of them, punched through the robot's hip like deadly reminders. This wasn't some factory fresh servant. This was a ghost from the war. A killer dressed up as a butler.
I am D4, RCO. Please call me Darko, or say the required name now.
Charles responded as if today was just another day.
Darko is fine. Come in.
The robot stepped inside. Each footstep made the floorboards groan under its weight. 300 pounds, maybe more. All armor and attitude.
Darko, serve us breakfast. And I'll have coffee. Black.
The machine moved with eerie precision, scanning the kitchen before getting to work. Its joints creaked like old hinges. I stared at those bullet holes. The question popped up before I could stop it.
Can I put my finger in your bullet holes?
There is a 30% chance you could cut your finger on the sharp edges left by the bullet impacts.
I tilted my head. This machine was so formal, like the 30% were betting odds.
So, 70% chance that nothing will happen? Is that a yes?
Charles rubbed his temples.
Darko, respond to all of Maxim's requests as if he were an adult, as long as they don't conflict with the 3 laws of robotics.
The robot's blank camera turned toward me.
Acknowledged.
This machine gave me the heebie-jeebies, but curiosity won. I walked over to the towering machine. Standing next to it was like standing next to a steel wall that could crush me without thinking twice. I extended a finger, lining it up with the jagged holes in its hip.
I can't believe it. You were shot in the war.
The bullets damaged my hip servomotor. I was unable to walk and lay in a pile of robotic parts for 18 months and 5 days until I was repaired. Afterward, I served as a security robot at the Midwest Arms Depot in Middleton, Wisconsin.
My eyes went wide.
That's so cool.
Wrong move. Charles's chair scraped back. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees.
Darko, you will never speak of the war again.
The robot didn't even blink.
If asked, you will say, I fulfilled my service. Do you understand?
Acknowledged.
My stomach clenched. Charles had just erased Darko's past with a single command. Like deleting a file. Charles rubbed his forehead like a man carrying the weight of the world. Then his tone shifted, too bright, too forced.
Now, Darko, clean the kitchen. Maxim and I are going outside to play football.
I stared at him.
Football?
Of all the insane things that happened today, Charles had wanted to hit me. A 300-pound mechanical butler appeared out of nowhere, and the thing was wearing bullet holes like some kind of fashion accessory. But it was the word football. That finally broke my brain. We had never played anything but chess. Charles held up a football like it was the most normal thing in the world.
What the hell is this?
His eyes cut through me. This wasn't a request. This was an order. Darko interrupted.
Play is acceptable for those under the age of 21.
I followed Charles outside. The morning air was crisp, with that bite that made you think fall might be lurking around the corner. Charles moved like a man walking to his execution, too stiff, too careful. We walked past the house to his garden. 60 by 60 feet of green defiance in a world gone gray. Everything from asparagus to zucchini, fighting against the neglect that had consumed the world. My mom had planted the first seeds here when times were easy. Charles never let it die. I always remember him saying, "Every bit of green thumb I have came from your mother." But today he wasn't looking at the vegetables. He was scanning the sky, the windows, the shadows. When he was sure we were alone, he did something strange. He covered his mouth with his hand. Then, in a whisper that barely qualified as sound, he said,
Say nothing. Just listen.
My heart hammered against my ribs. Charles gripped the football so tight his knuckles went white.
Every household is being watched. Drones outside. Mbot police, and now robotic servants inside.
The world felt smaller. Tighter.
The 1%, the real power behind this new world, are watching us.
His voice dropped even lower.
Darko is not your friend. It is not a servant. It's a listening device.
My brain scrolled through every word I'd spoken that morning. Slavery. I'd shouted it 3 times. My breath caught in my throat. Charles nodded, reading my silence like a chess position.
If you want to live, you never speak against the system again. Not in front of Darko. Not in front of anyone.
He threw the football at me. It bounced off my hands and hit the dirt. My first attempt at a catch, and I'd blown it. Charles stepped closer, his voice barely a breath.
I had to accept the domestic service robot. If I refused, the system would classify me as a troublemaker.
He swallowed hard.
If we say the wrong thing out loud, they call it relocation. But it's a death sentence.
My pulse pounded in my ears. Without thinking, I covered my own mouth with my hand. Then I whispered,
Charles, did you notice something strange about Melinda's speech?
His eyes narrowed.
I noticed that she spoke over 1,000 words and not a single contraction.
Charles went rigid. My weird brain had caught something 99.9% of the population had missed. The revelation hit him like a cold blade. He shook his head, but I continued.
At one point Melinda referred to the police as my robotic soldiers.
Charles cut me off mid-word.
Maxim, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Your Asperger's mind is amazing. You notice things no one else does. But you cannot. Never speak up. Ever.
He grabbed my shoulder, his grip desperate.
You cannot stick out. You cannot be seen. Promise me you will never tell anyone else. You will never talk about the system.
The words settled in my gut like poison. It was a game I couldn't win. A position with no good moves. Through clenched teeth, I muttered,
Fine.
My first compromise. The first pawn sacrificed. Charles let out a shaky breath. We stood there in the silence, the football lying in the dirt between us like evidence of our surrender. Then Charles smiled. Forced. Hollow.
All right then. Throw it back.
I did. Not because I wanted to play. I didn't know how to play football, but I knew Darko was watching through the kitchen window. In chess, very few games end in a draw, but in life, Charles had laid out a survival strategy to play for a draw, at all costs. The question was, how long could we keep playing defense before all our pieces were gone?